Do you need a good reason to put the trade on to win? Do you need a good reason? No, not at all. What characteristics distinguish the pro from the typical trader? Well, they plan their trades. No. They execute their plan without error. We'll talk about trading errors in a minute. Big difference. Okay, they can move in and out of their trades with an ease and effortlessness that would boggle the mind of the typical trader. Okay, what do you need to achieve consistent results? Well, you're gonna need an edge. You're going to be able to identify an edge. You're going to have a trading methodology, are you not? Right? Okay? And you have to have a plan on how to utilize that edge. In other words, you're going to have to determine risk parameters. How much does it cost me to find out if this particular edge that my methodology provides me, how much is it going to cost me to find out that this edge is working on this particular trade or not? That's your risk parameter. Are you guys with me on this? Okay? Money management parameters. In other words, how much in other words, contract size or number of shares that you trade. All this has to be taken into consideration. You could have a standard amount, or you could have an amount that fluctuates based on other criteria that you use, to determine, the level of trade that it is. Like it could be like a 5-star trade or a 1-star trade. With a 5-star trade, you go in with a maximum position, or the 1-star trade, you go in with a minimum position. And profit objectives. You have to be able to set profit objectives. See, just having a methodology to get you into a trade is not enough. You have to be able to determine what the risk is on a consistent basis. You have to know what your money management parameters are, and you have to be able to determine where to take profits. None of these are easy things to do, are they? Trade execution. The ability to execute trades flawlessly so you can utilize your trading plan to its maximum potential. This is the big one right here. This is the area, because when you get right down to it, trading is about trading is execution. The act of trading is executing trades. And if you're going to execute trades, you're going to have to be able to do them without errors, because it doesn't make any sense to think that you will achieve a consistently rising equity curve if you're constantly making trading errors. Trading errors would be defined as mistakes. Mistakes that detract from your bottom line results. Now, the interesting thing about mistakes is that when you're trading from let's say the perspective of, it doesn't really take anything to win, then there really aren't any mistakes that you can make, because anything that you do could result in a winning trade for any reason. But when we're talking about making consistent money or an income that we can rely on, then everything changes about this. Everything changes. What I'm talking about here is I'm talking about these like 5 or 4 broad skill sets to be able to create consistent results, the kind of results that you can rely on as an income. You're going to have to learn an edge. You're going to have to acquire a trading methodology that gives you an edge. I'm defining an edge as that there's a higher probability of one thing happening over another. That's what an edge is. And we're going to learn the nature of probabilities here in a moment. You're going to have to have, have a plan on how you utilize that edge, meaning what the risk is, position size, and profit objectives. Then you're going to have to be able to execute. You're going to have to get to the point where you can execute that edge without making errors. For you to be able to execute that edge without making errors, you're going to have to learn how to trade from a carefree state of mind, meaning you're going to have to aspire to the point where you can trade without fear. And to trade without fear, you're going to have to learn how to think in probabilities. That's basically where we're going here. When I said this primary skill was learning how to trade without fear, learning how to trade without fear is a function of learning how to think in probabilities. Meaning we're going to set aside or move from thinking in a trade-by-trade mentality. In other words, what this trade is going to do for me right now, am I right or wrong on this trade? And we're going to move to a series of trades perspective. Because that's what your methodology does anyway. Any trading methodology just gives you a win or loss ratio over a percentage of trades. In other words, if I take the same criteria that's in any kind of mathematical, any kind of technical formula that's mathematically based, or a technical price pattern that you would be able to see visually, what we're going to learn is that my edge, meaning a higher probability of one thing happening over another, is simply going to give me a higher win rate over a series of trades. Let's say the next 20 trades. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And that the actual, on a trade-by-trade basis, I don't know which one's going to win or which one's going to lose in advance. There is no way for me to find out. There's no way for me to determine that. That on a trade-by-trade basis, no matter what reason or rationale that you come up with, is that there's no way to assure yourself that it's going to be a winning trade. There's nothing that can tell you that. That trading methodologies give you a win percentage, let's say 70% of the next 20 trades are going to be winners. There's no way I'm going to know which of the 70, which 12 or 13 are going to be the winners, or which 6 or 7 are going to be the losers. What you're going to learn, and this is what traders, the professionals have learned, is that there's a random distribution between wins and losses over any given set of criteria that define your edge. There's a random distribution. I will get a higher percentage of wins to losses, but I just don't know which trades are going to be. It requires a complete shift in the way you think about trading. When you make this complete shift, everything about your trading will change. Now, I'm expecting you to make it now because we're still in the introduction. We won't really get into the meat of this until a little bit, but this is where we're going. Okay, that's all I want you to get. This is where we're going. You're going to genuinely learn how to think in probabilities, because when you have genuinely integrated these concepts into your mental system at a functional level, your fear will go away. You do not need to lose everything to get to the point where you can figure out that, well, I've got nothing to lose anymore, so I don't have anything to be afraid of. You don't have to do that, okay? You don't have to do that. All you have to do is commit yourself to learn how to think about trading in another way, and your fear will go away. Because what we're going to learn is the correlation between what we believe and what we feel. There's a direct correlation between, if I'm going into a situation with a certain belief that, let's say, that my particular edge is going to tell me what's going to happen on this trade right here, I wouldn't even put this trade on unless I thought it was going to win. When you really understand the nature of price movement, which is what we're going to get into after we go through this section on skills, when you really understand that, you will never think that way again. When you really understand the nature of price movement, you won't think that way again. And that is one of the biggest problems that the typical trader has. Let's say the typical screen-based trader is that they really don't understand the nature of how prices move and the underlying dynamics, because you haven't had the exposure. You haven't had the exposure to the direct markets. Your only exposure has been those blips on the screen. And as a result, there's a real gap in understanding about what's really happening. When you understand what's behind those blips, what's behind those photons that show up on your screen, when you really understand that, you will think about trading in another way, in a completely different way. It won't even occur to you to do some of the things that you're doing now. Won't even occur to you.